5, 4, 3, 2.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Fumble Live. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Jackie?
I'm Jackie Ray. You can find me on all things social media at JRay the Fanatic. I was about to say CK2K.
You too, Jackie.
You can find all of us on CK2K. I am Britt Johnson. You can follow me on all social media at I am Britt Johnson.
And it's your boy Chris, and I think you can find me at CK2K unless I lost my account to everybody else now.
All right, you guys, I'm going to jump right into our need-to-know news because we have a lot to get into today. So Draymond Green held nothing back and put KD on blast. Okay, so he joined Uninterrupted to talk about The Last Dance, and he was asked how KD handled his upcoming free agency when he was on the Warriors. We have a clip that we're going to play for you right now. Just take a listen to this. Leo, can you throw it up there?
Necessarily carry the same weight because what should have happened was Kevin come out and say, "Hey man, like this it, like this is it, like so let's do this or this isn't it." You know what I'm saying? But you can't just leave an elephant in the room.
So Draymond goes into some pretty intense detail about how KD wasn't giving them an answer, and it caused a lot of friction on the team because the media would then ask Clay, would ask Draymond, what's happening? What's the deal with everybody's contracts? What's KD doing? And nobody ever had an answer. And he says that really just caused the team to sort of fall apart at the seams. He does admit that Steve Kerr did a good job of trying to manage all of that uncertainty. We obviously saw that KD and Draymond got into some public, disagreements on the court, and then KD ultimately ended up declining that $31.5 million player option last June and went into unrestricted free agency. So I'm curious if you think that tensions wouldn't have run so high if KD had been upfront about his decision, or was this kind of a double-edged sword where no matter what he said, it would have caused things to kind of bubble over and get a little tense? Britt, can you tell me your thoughts?
Well, Kevin Durant was actually a sign and trigger, not like you have a team right now, and at that moment, as a team, you guys play basketball together, and that's all you need to worry about. And I don't think it was like, there's no need to worry about what he's going to do next year. Right now is your opportunity to win a championship and play basketball, so that's what you do right now. Like, he could have said he was going to sign again and then end up getting hurt and been out for the whole next year anyway. Like, you don't live and play your current season based off what's going to happen the following season or not. I don't think people kept asking Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant just kept saying nothing about it because it wasn't anybody's business. We're supposed to be focusing on this season, so that's what I'm going to do. Like, all that other
being
stuff. Being
undefeated means something.
Like,
everybody can't say that.
Even Klay Thompson and Steph both were saying, oh yeah, we're going to be Warriors for life, and yada, yada. And then did we see them play this season? We saw a little bit of stuff at the end, but it's like they ended up getting hurt. So you thought you had another season with these guys, and you didn't at the time. So what's the point of talking about what's going to happen next season? We have a season right now that we need to play, and that's all we need to worry about.
So do you guys think, Britt, I think I know where you stand on this, but Chris, I'm going to direct this question to you. Do you think that it's a basketball player's duty to let his teammates know what his plans are for future seasons? Or do you think that no matter what, I feel like no matter what, a player, if they say, I'm going to leave, it's going to cause some weirdness on the team, even if they give their teammates advance notice. But where do you stand on that?
I think that's completely up to the player. I don't think they have to tell anybody anything. I mean, we're probably seeing some situations where that's happened where they don't really say anything and they end up gone. I think, common courtesy would be like, hey, I'm deciding to go here. But I mean, at the same time, they don't have to tell anybody anything about what's going on. And like you said, if they did, like, to send that group chat, like, yo, all right, man, it's been real, but I'm going to see y'all. I'm going to be in New York next season. Like, I feel like that's just as awkward, too. So I don't feel like anybody has to tell anybody anything in a situation like that. Like, the players would get it. They'll understand. They always say they understand. They're always cool after the fact, unless your name is Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. The more times than not, they'll understand it.
So do you think that Draymond had it out for KD from the start, Jackie, or why do you think there was so much drama between these two?
I mean, I don't know if Draymond had it out for KD from the start. I will say that I agree and disagree with his comment, though. I think that when you think about Draymond, Steph, and Clay, they do fully want to be Warriors for life. And And I think that we are just in a different time. We talked about that yesterday. We don't have the MJ and Matt, Kobe staying with teams for life. That's just not a thing anymore. Now it's about people. Players are their brand. They understand that if they can go somewhere and either get a chip or get some more money, that's what they're going to do. But on top of that, I think that even if KD doesn't say it to you, you got to judge a person by their past. KD literally left the team to go to a team that he couldn't beat. So
right.
I wouldn't, you know what I mean? So why would you?
Against, yeah.
Exactly. So why would you think that he came there for a specific reason? He came there to win.
He got it.
And he got it. And then that should be a period at the end of that sentence in your mind, because in your head you know that he's there for one specific reason. Now you should hope that he wants to continue to try to win, but you got to kind of judge the man by his past. And if he has an opportunity to go somewhere else and do the same thing and be the reason, because let's not forget, the Warriors were cool without KD. You know what I mean? So if he can be the reason that a team wins, you need to expect him to do that regardless of where he says it. So Draymond probably should have got out of his feelings and operated a little bit more in logic, and then he'd feel a little bit better about the situation right now.
Yeah, and let's not forget, you guys, the NBA used to not have free agency. Whoever signed you, when you got drafted, that team owned you basically your whole entire career. You never got to make this decision. And Oscar Robinson was one of the main people in the NBPA at the time that fought so hard for free agency. So this is what the NBA fought for. This is why lockouts happen and stuff, so people have those options to decide a little bit about their future and where they want to go. So we can't get mad when they decide to do that. Like, everyone stop being mad at LeBron for hopping to different teams or whatever. He has that option to do that. That's why people fought years and years ago, so players could have a little bit of choice and decision making in their life, in their career, with their families, and where they want their kids to go to school and where they want their kids to be raised at. Like, I don't understand why we continue to put that pressure on players that they have to stay where they were drafted at when their draft choice wasn't a choice. They got sent to a place, maybe they always wanted to play for this team. Give them an option to do that. I don't understand why we keep making players feel bad about making decisions that concern their life and not technically our lives.
Right.
Because he has every right to, that's the name of the game. I feel like athletes are going to be leaving to go to different teams. They're going to switch. They are not.
Also, you guys basically started that particular franchise,
Yeah.
So I think that in those situations, after the season's over, obviously free agency doesn't begin till 3 weeks after the season's over and after the playoffs season is over. And I think at that time, that's when maybe players could go to their teammates and say, hey, I'm actually going to go here, or whatever the case, the ones that they're close to anyway. But during the season, I think it's just a distraction to let people know that you wanted to leave and you want to do this, and they're going to have issues wanting to play with you at that time. So I think waiting until after the season and telling your close teammates what's going to happen is probably the best bet. And I think Kevin Durant probably handled that incorrectly, but still, it is his choice to make.
Yeah,
I do think Steph, Clay, and Draymond expected. They have this camaraderie that you just talked about that he just walked away. Again, that's why I think y'all should have looked at what he did before. But I think they expected him to come to the Bay and adopt the Bay mentality.
Right.
KD has burner accounts. He's not about to adopt the Bay mentality.
Yeah.
He gives you all these clues into who he is. So if you mad now, that's your fault. It's not Kevin's fault.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well said, Jackie. Let's talk about the Warriors a little bit more. So with The Last Dance premiering on Sunday night, as it did, and continuing to air over the next, I think it's 5 weeks, people are wondering what other documentaries might come out in the future about current teams in the NBA, but we will not be able to expect one about the Warriors. So USA Today's Mark Medina wrote, quote, "The Warriors decided against having a camera crew embedded with the Warriors, as the Bulls allowed during the 1997-98 NBA season to capture their 6th NBA championship in 8 years. He also said, quote, once you do that, you actually affect the outcome of other things. Turning the camera on with the expectation that you're going to get a particular point with a sports team or career or something like that, it's a dangerous business. It's hubris. So are you surprised that they wouldn't want to document their team, Jackie?"
No. Because I think unless you're like Michael Jordan, where you get to go and sign off on everything, you get to review everything before it's put out there, then you do run the risk somebody in that locker room in the front office is behaving inappropriately. And as if I'm documenting that, if I'm the journalist on that, what do we want? We want the scoop, right? So if I can get you in a compromising position, even if it's 10 years later, I'm releasing it. And unless they do the same thing they did with Jordan, where they say, hey, you know, so-and-so, you get to sign off, you get to review everything first before it's presented to the world. If they do that, then I would absolutely do it, because now I can control the narrative. But if you can't control the narrative, turn the cameras off. I'm not mad at that at all.
Britt, what do you think about them declining the option to document their season?
I think I expected that to happen, just because, you know, you don't, I'm sure at times Steph or whoever gets into it with somebody and they don't want that to be seen. They don't want that to be out there. That's supposed to be the happy best friends team. Like, everybody gets along, everyone's cool with each other. And then I think they would feel like I don't know. I think they just like to keep things behind closed doors. They're never really out on talking about stuff and being open about stuff like that. So I just think I understand why they did it. Obviously, like, it's unfortunate, because it would be cool to see, like, you know, in the next, like, 15 plus years, you know, to go back and look at that documentary. Even just stuff like, I love watching Hard Knocks every year, and that's literally just the one team's NFL preseason, you know, but that's, like, there's stuff that happens in that. Like, who knew the Raiders was going to turn out like that for theirs last year, you know? Who knew all that stuff with Antonio Brown was going to come? But when it did come, the cameras followed, because they're like, oh, all this stuff's going down, people saying this about this person, and then it kind of turned into a complete circus, and everyone's like, oh, the Raiders organization is trash again. Everyone hates Mike Mayock again. Everybody hates John Gruden again, you know? Like, it's this whole thing, and, like, they didn't know what was going to happen that season, so obviously, like, stuff like that comes up, but then you have moments where people fall in love with certain players and, like, really end up liking a guy that they never heard about before. So it kind of, like, sucks that we didn't get to see that moment, because it was probably a really awesome, you know, season to go through, and we're never going to get to see it, like, out there like that. But also, I mean, players have social media and stuff now anyway, so I think we already get kind of a little taste of what they're going through and things that's happening on the planes and whatever, because they're just recording it and putting it on IG. So before, what happened in the Michael Jordan time, that's stuff that we'll literally we would have never seen, because they didn't have social media to, like, be record. They just had, like, those old school camcorders, you know, with the cassette tape that you would put in there, or the VHS tape you would put in there. So I think it's cool to see something that we otherwise would have never seen or got insight about any of these players.
Yeah. I'm going to move into our third need-to-know news story really quickly. So Michael Jordan is actually not going to be receiving any money from The Last Dance. Forbes reported that he plans to donate the proceeds he'll receive, which is estimated to be around $3 or $4 million. This is huge. It is so generous and amazing. Chris, what do you think inspired him to donate all of the proceeds?
LeBron did not play.
You said it right.
I was genuinely surprised, but I loved it. It was a happy surprise. To answer that question, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe because he's just so aware of what's going on, and he actually, you know, is a person that wants to help out. But to say who I think pushing, I don't know. That's a great question, because we've not seen Michael Jordan do something like this, especially in something so big when it's about him, you know, and they just threw me off, and hats off to Michael Jordan, man. That's a big move from him. But to answer that, I really don't know who or where that would have come from, because this is new territory for Mr. Jordan.
Really wonderful, though, really. I mean, I love when athletes do that kind of thing, and I think it's so meaningful. Let's get into our final update for you all. So this is all about the Utah Jazz. We have heard rumors that the Jazz will be considering a trade due to Rudy and Donovan's broken relationship, but Tony Jones of The Athletic reported that Donovan is on the list of the most untouchable players in the league as a dynamic talent on the floor and terrific in the community. He also noted that the Jazz built their entire identity defensively around Gobert, and they don't plan on moving him. So the potential of a trade, you know, trading one of these players is actually not very realistic. Do you guys believe this? Because we've been talking a lot about this. Jackie, can you start first?
Yeah, I said this from jump. I was like, they need to figure it out because I don't think either one of them are going anywhere. And I said, if it came down to it, I would probably let Donovan go. And we know, like they said, that doesn't make sense either. I think Britt and I both said that we don't even think they've talked yet. And, you can hold on to pettiness. I think all of us have experienced that. We, have a little bit of pettiness, and then you be out at the bar one day and you be like, hey, girl, hey. And then 2 shots later, it's all good again. So I just think that, whatever, especially now, even if Donovan specifically is holding on to a level of pettiness, I think if he's aware and just looking around and seeing that this virus can impact anybody. We've seen that it impacted Von Miller, who was practicing social distancing. You know what I mean? So I think if he's aware and conscious, whatever pettiness he'll let go of, and I think they'll be fine. But I think they were going to ultimately be fine without this announcement. I'm just glad to hear it's actually confirmed now.
So I know you say you don't believe that the two have talked, and I think that that's a sentiment that the rest of you have also said. But if they really can't get over this tension, if they really are at a point where their relationship is unsalvageable, do you think that, you guys really don't feel that a trade could happen? Chris,
they're paid to get over it, though. Sorry,
Yeah.
They are literally paid to get over it.
And I think that's what I don't think that this news is saying that there would never be a trade. I just think as of right now, they are untouchable because, like we all said, once, training camp and once they get back to practicing, then that's up to them to then figure it out. So for the time being, they're not looking to move anybody until they have an opportunity to talk. Because like we said, we don't believe that they spoke. So I believe that, if nothing comes from that, they go and run and they're still having their problems afterwards, then of course somebody is going to be let go, Rudy Gobert. But as of right now, I don't know. You really think they moved Donovan Mitchell before they moving Rudy Gobert?
I feel like
this before, yeah.
Yeah, me and Jackie both said this. Like Donovan Mitchell,
That's crazy.
There's other guys like Donovan Mitchell coming into the league like this year, So I'm just like, that's somebody that like a defender like Rudy Gobert is harder to come by than Donovan Mitchell, personally to me. And they're both. They both are. Contracts are up in 2021 anyway, or 2022. They both have the same year. Their contracts are up. You play. And that's what happens. Like, I'm sorry, like, business side does not care about y'all's little petty beefs. It doesn't, who cares? Like, you go, like Jackie said, you are paid to get over the pettiness. Like, you just gotta go out there and play basketball. And if you can't, then that's just gonna show more to your character than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. All right, well, that wraps up my segment, you guys. Chris, I'm handing it to you. Oh, wait.
I'm back. Sorry, I was muted. All right, I'm back. It's okay. Because, guys, it's time for Post Up. It's your boy Chris. I took a lot of energy to say. Quarantine edition. Guys, we have some blasphemy to get out of the way. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about it, Jackie. But we heard some blasphemy from one of my favorite players that nobody knows about, Mikal Bridges. But this comment was a bit out of pocket. We all saw the 2 episodes on Sunday of Jordan's new docuseries. And the second episode, they talked about the season Michael was coming back from his foot fracture and how he forced his way into the lineup and then played against the Celtics, even though they got beat. But the impact that he had for the team against the Celtics in losses was, caught Larry Bird's eye and blah, 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 blah. What matters is Mikal Bridges wasn't buying it, okay? He's seeing this as, that's cool, but if Michael was doing that against that defense, LeBron James is out here dropping 90. And that's just me paraphrasing what he actually said. When he said, Bron having 90 every game that series, no cap, that's on everything. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to leave it at that because I know we're going to have some different opinions. I'm going to go to you first, though, Britt. Do you believe that, LeBron will go out there and get, let's say, score a lot of points? Because I'm not going to say 90.
He said 90.
You want? All right. Sorry.
It's crazy. LeBron ain't never scored 90 points in his life. Like, I don't care. Like, that's not happening. LeBron is more, I think, he can play like a 1 through 4 pretty good. So I don't even think he's even in a place where he would be the number 1 shooting person on the team like LeBron or Michael Jordan was anyway. Like, no. 4, those guys, they had like 4 like Hall of Fame like big defender guys on that team. Like, there's no way and to not give Michael Jordan with like literally a broken foot like any like love in that moment. Like, are you crazy right now? Like, that's just the biggest hater move I've ever seen.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it was but I don't think it was hating. I think what he was trying to say is if Michael was able to go nuts like that, LeBron would go nuts too. I think the 90 was just him being, being extra.
Right, he was trying to say more than Michael Jordan.
Exactly,
And I don't think that's true.
much.
And also, Michael's foot was still technically broken. Like.
Well, I mean, he didn't play like it, but technically, you're right. You're right. He was 100%. Jackie, I'm gonna let you defend yourself, and Devin, I want to hear what you have to say too. Defend your boy, please. Do you even? First of all, before I even go into it, do you agree with this?
Jackie agreed a lot.
Agreed on almost everything. So, Chris,
really?
Look at your eyes right now. You're like, what?
That's insane. Yeah, wow, that's crazy. So, are you gonna agree to this then? Do you agree that Mikal is crazy?
Chris starts the drama between us. That's what's happening.
I just lay out the groundwork. The rest is up to y'all. I just make the sandwich. Y'all just eat whatever size you want to eat. That's up to you guys. I don't do that. That's on you guys.
Okay.
No, but do you agree with the initial statement, Jackie?
I think he's being extra with the 90. I think the 90 is a lot. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think LeBron is a better all-around player than Michael Jordan is.
I would say that too. Yes.
I think he would have had 90 points though. I mean, couldn't he have said a different number? Like if he would have said he would have 55 every night, I'd have been like, okay, maybe. But like Britt said, LeBron is such a facilitator of the game. I could see him even saying that the Bulls would have scored the most points because LeBron's going to have probably the most assists. I mean, maybe he's going to score more than LeBron, but LeBron does so much on the court that there's just your possibilities are limitless. You could have said a lot of things. You could have said a lot of things other than 90. This is like that 99 Problems song, So you could have said something else. I definitely think that the amount of success LeBron had at that time would have been insane. They would have been a totally different documentary. They would have been investigating him for steroids and stuff because it would have been crazy. But
I agree with that.
I'll co-sign on it because I think that he just put that crazy number out there because he couldn't use his words. He couldn't say that LeBron is such an all-around player. It would have been an amazing feat. That was not in his vocabulary to say that, so he said 90. So I'm just going to say that's what happened.
So what I will say right now is say less, Bridges.
Right, or use your words. Get a dictionary. It's your friend. I don't know. I don't think he really meant to say 90 like that.
Devin, what's your thoughts on that? You think that he was just going a little too crazy with the 90? Do you agree? How you feeling about that? I know because you're LeBron now because he's a Laker, but I'm trying to. How you feeling about this?
Well, I obviously think that 90 was a little excessive, and whenever I follow Jackie in a LeBron conversation, I'm always like, yes, that's it. Right. What Jackie says, I feel exactly the same.
I just want to be the one to get Devin saying something crazy like, yeah, he would get that 90. I just want to be the one to say like, okay. I got that out of Devin. So I was just making sure. So I had to make sure that
I'll do it for you. Yeah, I want to get 90. Of course.
Wasn't convincing. Devin was not convincing.
Try. Leave her alone.
I agree. I feel like it's a crazy statement because of the 90. I think the 90 is what throws everybody off. I do believe LeBron would be pretty impactful in a situation like that. I know he's not known to be the go-to scorer, but we got to remember the kind of things he was doing with that Cavaliers team when he had absolutely nobody that first on the paperwork.
On his back.
So I just feel like he would come something close with the 90 is just what throws everything off. But the argument is there for a different number. Moving on, sticking with this GOAT conversation, Stacks dropped some knowledge, but I'm with him with some of it, but he then makes it. I'm gonna let Stacks talk first, and I'll give my opinion. But he has a rather interesting take on how we should be weighing on who's the greatest of all time and all that stuff. And Stacks, please drop some knowledge on the chat with this.
Being undefeated means something. Everybody can't say that. 98% of the people who play sports can't say that. 6-0, man. Then Kobe, then Braun. Braun is the best all-around player we've ever seen, but he hasn't passed Kobe or Jordan, my opinion. But I played.
LeBron said, I don't care how great LeBron is. I don't care who he played against. I don't care who he didn't have with him. The perfection is something that Michael still did it. You know what I'm saying? And Michael played some good teams. So I hear him on that. But then at the same time, this argument is still flawed because then where's Bill Russell in the conversation? Where's Wilt in the conversation? Like, we're leaving a lot of guys out. So it's just, I hear what he's trying to get at, but I want to know, I'm going to leave it to Jack because you guys said the great GOAT debate between Michael and LeBron. We dropped that last week. You guys haven't seen it in the chat. Go check that video out. But I want to start with you again, Jackie, on that conversation. Do you think that the perfection matters, or is it in all? Because he did give him the credit, just like you and Britt both said. He is probably the best overall player to play. But as far as the GOAT conversation, does that perfection that Michael had, and to a lesser degree, but pretty close, that Kobe had, does that hold them over LeBron?
See, so I always have a hard time with this this argument, and I understand the argument, and to a certain extent, I can co-sign on the argument, especially we know how strong Michael lived, breathed, ate, slept, everything basketball. You know what I mean? That was his whole life. That was his whole thing. We know LeBron has a kind of a bigger agenda than that, right? So, however, it's always difficult for me to process how LeBron goes out here and make the same cake with less ingredients than MJ had. You know what I mean? We're literally doing the same with less. So that's always, I don't understand how you can process that, because I hate the yeah, but scenario when people say, oh yeah, he didn't have the great team, and yeah, he's a better all-around player, but that's, my mind can't process that. It just doesn't. It's not a logical statement to me. I love the GOAT debate between MJ and LeBron, though. It's always going to be fun. And I listened to a podcast the other day, and they were like, people forget, like, if you go out to a field right now, you're not going to see one GOAT. It's a herd of goats. You know what I mean? So you can literally have more than one GOAT. So so I don't mind the, LeBron, Kobe, MJ debate. But I mind that specific argument, because I don't think it's a rational argument if you're saying that you recognize that LeBron had less, he didn't have the teams, he didn't have the coaches that MJ had. But if you continue the sentence after that, I usually kind of tap out. I'm like, okay, you're just being nonsense right now.
Well, Brett, as far as the perfection in the finals, you literally had that in your argument. So we've got your opinion. I'm curious to hear your top three, though, with Kobe, MJ, and LeBron. Do you mind sharing that with us? Who you got? 1, 2, 3.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh wow! So what I really was gonna say is, I mean, since Kobe passed away, I kind of like tried to, unless obviously I have to talk about it for work, like steer away from like GOAT debates and conversations, because people are just, I mean, just in general, like I just don't even really like them anymore, because people, they were all great players. They all added something to the league. One of them maybe led in MVPs. One of them led in, like undefeated in the finals or whatever the case is. They all brought a little bit of different things to the game. Obviously, like Michael Jordan was big on, he learned a lot of his stuff from Dr. J, and nobody talks about him in like those debates, So it's like there's so many different like layers to this piece, and if I personally had to, I would do Michael, LeBron, and then Kobe. And then, but what I did like about what Stack said, and what I think is the relevant part that we're missing, is he actually, like, I mean, low-key, like, he was drafted in 97, even though he, like, didn't really play until, like, 3 or 4 years later, but he actually played against all three of these guys. So I think, like, his point is, like, because that's what he was saying at the end. He was just like, oh, well, who knows? I mean, that's my point, but, I only played in the league too, So, like, I think, like, the way players see it versus the way fans see it versus the way, actually LeBron and Michael Jordan see it is probably totally different. We're all looking at different things, and there's just so many layers to this cake. And, some people like the frosting. Some people like the side corner of the cake that's kind of burnt. Some people like the bread part. Like, people like different things. So whatever your focus is going to be how you layer your, your GOAT, whoever you have it as is. So I kind of like, I mean, that's just my personal one, but also Jackie's going to have a different list. I'm sure Devin and you are going to have different lists. And
I mean, my list actually changed once Kobe passed, and that's what I totally respect what you said, because now
don't tell me you put MJ to 3.
Listen to what I'm saying. It's just difficult for me to, when you think about how life altered for us, once Kobe was gone, it was difficult for me to say, I'm totally with Britt. I don't even like having the conversation because it's painful sometimes. It's just not. It's just one of those things that I think we're all still grieving. So, but to answer your question, yes, he's at number 3 now.
I see. And I'm ending it there. I'm not. Look, I don't want no blood in the post up, so I'm moving on from that.
She's about to be on the same train as Dion Waiters over here.
I mean, if I move Kobe to the 1. I'm not, how do you think this list gonna go?
Oh my gosh. Can we pin? We're going to put a pin on that one.
Jackie now?
Oh, wow. But yeah, look, I love basketball debates. I love talking basketball, but even before COVID, I've never been a fan of this conversation. I've never been a fan of the GOAT conversation because I have all arguments for LeBron. I have a ton of arguments for Michael, and I have a billion arguments for Kobe. So that flock of GOATs statement, I'm leaning a herd, flock, whatever. All the GOATs out there doing the scream together. That I just see Michael, Kobe, and LeBron all in the same pasture. So yeah, I hate that conversation. Anyways, moving on to someone that some people might believe is a GOAT, others might not. Derek Jeter. So we've been talking a lot about the coronavirus and the effects on the financials upstairs and front offices and stuff like that. Well, Derek Jeter has decided, people know him as the Yankee, but he is now known as the Marlins CEO. He told his employees that he has decided that he will be foregoing his salary during this coronavirus pandemic. He makes roughly around like $5 million a year on his current contract. And with that being said, they're still going to be paying everybody that, is within team operations all the way at least for right now, all the way up until May 31st. So, on Twitter, it was a 50-50 debate. A lot of people were, giving him props to that. People were saying that why should he even be doing that? And then you had the haters out there saying, of course he's doing that because the Marlins ain't got no damn money. So that makes sense. So we had all kinds of arguments from all over the place. But look, man, I think it's a step. I think it's kind of dope. But look, I'm just looking at it from my glass half full kind of conversation. But I'm gonna leave that to y'all to discuss in the chat. Moving off of that, this one is crazy. Steve Kerr. We talked about a lot about the Warriors today. Steve Kerr had a very interesting way to handle trolls. This to me is not the way to do it, but hey, Steve Kerr, to each their own. He believes that we should, or it's not us, the trolls and the player in which one is trolling should be in a room together, face to face, and they should hash it out. Or simply the way Steve Kerr put it, he said, I have this idea to somebody bring in a few of their detractors from Twitter. Like actually find them and bring them. Set the fan in front of them. Kevin, this is Joe from Portola Valley. Joe said that you were a loser yesterday. Now, look at him. Look at him carefully. Do you really care what he thinks?
Your voice on this is perfect.
Oh man, because it's just I find I love Steve. Steve Kerr gives some of the best pieces whenever he's talking to the media. So yeah, he always has some of the best lines. With this one, I'm not with you on this one, Kerr, because two reasons. One, that person is going to be called more than a loser every single time. There's no way I will never believe if someone goes on and that's all they call him. Never believe in that. And two, this is only going to make things worse because now we're going to be rewarding trolls for being trolls, and now you're going to create more trolls because then be like, oh, I get a free flight to go meet Kevin Durant. Oh, hell yeah, because more times than not, a lot of these trolls actually like the player that they are trolling every single time. Yep. So like we talk about all the time right here on the Fumble. We get people that troll on the Fumble, but they are trolling on every video. Therefore, you are a fan providing us with the view every single video that we post up. So,
and then as soon as you comment to them, they're like, oh my gosh, Rick Johnson responded to me?
It never fails. So, I feel like this is a terrible idea. But, Devin, I want to hear from you. I'm so curious. Do you think that this is the best way to handle a situation like trolls? Or should we just keep leaving them alone and stop talking to them? Do you agree with Steve Kerr on this one?
Okay, let's get one thing straight. This is absolutely not the best way to handle trolls. But if they did do this and filmed it, I would watch it just because I would be curious as to what happened. So I would be down to see it. Yeah, but Britt, exactly like what you were saying, whenever I get a really mean DM, I respond really nicely, and I'm like, that was really hurtful, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, if you're ever in Cleveland, let me know, I'll show you around. Right. I'm going to call you after.
Right.
Yeah, right. That's so annoying. So I think that obviously with trolls, it's better to ignore them, but if they filmed this, I would.
It would be entertaining. That's true. I
do want to point out, Jackie had this idea. We had a Fumble meeting, and Jackie kind of had an idea like this for us to do on the Fumble, like and with athletes and stuff like that, or with us or whatever. So I'm interested to see, Jackie, what you feel about Steve Kerr stealing your idea.
Right. Yeah, he definitely watches the fumble. I said this from jump. I'm like, look, next time somebody want to get out of pocket with Russell, let's get him in a room and let's just see. Whatever happens, nobody can press charges. Let's just get him in a room and let's just see. I'm down for that.
But that's different because Steve Kerr's over there trying to be like, like
the
look at them.
diplomat
Do they
and
really
men
affect you?
prison.
No. You doing some kind of like Fight Club kind of thing. You gonna put them in the room. It's gonna have no windows. You gonna close the door and you gonna be on the other side. And whatever happens, happens. And
whoever limps out won.
Look, there's you didn't see it. No, there's no cameras in there, right? But.
Yep. And it reminds me of like that one time when Dame Lillard was like, walking from the bus, from this arena to the bus, and somebody yelled something, and he walked up to me. He's like, "What? What'd you say to me? Who said that?" And everyone's like, "I didn't say anything."
And all of a sudden, that person
He was
disappeared.
literally about to get very Oakland on them real quick, and then everybody got quiet. They're like, "We didn't say anything. We love you." Like, that's how it's
fake, man. I'm saying, I don't know.
All the time.
I hate it. I hate the idea. Jackie's, I could co-sign a little bit just because I'm okay with some troll hunting. I'm okay with that, but this one right here, nah, man. Look. Anyways, moving on. This one's actually pretty funny. We talked about MJ. Post-retirement, MJ's fits got a little lazy because look, you're seeing it now in this documentary. A lot of you guys, MJ had some nice fits when he was in the league. Like he had some dope, like the famous the Olympic matching purple like that. He had some dope fits that now people in the 2020 are trying to wear now and act like this is the new fashion. Now MJ was doing all that stuff first. But then when he retired, I don't know if he got lazy. He fired he went crazy.
He's old now. He's just old.
Yeah, but he got to show it like this with the triple and quadruple X pants.
Yeah.
The outfit
now it's just his yak, okay? Yep. He's like, as long as I got this accessory, I'm good.
Right. Okay, so I respect it. Well, anyways, regardless, we got some of y'all favorite players in his fits, okay? And I want to know if you think that they're playing. Look at James.
I think it actually looks good, though.
Me too. That's what I was going to say. I'm like, this is a good start. Oh, what
Not
you say,
his pants, though.
He's going to be dressing a little crazy sometimes, so this is actually a little bit better.
You say you didn't like the pants, Devin?
No, I do not like those big wide pants.
Yeah, we used to.
I literally thought this was an actual picture.
I did too.
Me too. Yeah, the Kawhi Leonard one. Yeah, I didn't realize that these were all photoshopped until after Kawhi because that looks like a Kawhi fit.
Yeah, because I was like, Kawhi would wear that.
Right. We got next. Look at LeBron. So he got the star.
Like, why?
But this is probably the best of all the fits we're gonna see. Like I'm okay with this. Like this looks like LeBron when he's 36. What's he now? 36.
Right. LeBron ain't never gonna wear no high-waisted mom jeans. You better stop.
And the cigar and the do-rag, I love it.
Right, the turtleneck with the black, that's definitely.
This is my favorite.
Russ honestly probably would at some point because you know how he likes to go crazy with his outfits. Like I think this gave him motivation to do something like this.
Yeah.
This one also.
I like
with the beeper though. That's that outfit, the beeper. Gotta have
so
it
cute.
I hate this. This looks like they got two Steph Currys on each other's shoulder.
There, yep.
No, I don't like this one at all.
The worst one.
I
hate that oversized jacket.
That was the style back then, Devin. The oversized Steve Harvey jacket.
I know.
Harvey still ain't
I
that
know.
Maybe early 2000s. Anyways, you know what?
What player was it? Dion, what's his name? Did it this last year. It was like a joke for a thing, and he's like super skinny, and he wore this giant suit from back in the day. Like they redid like a fake draft, so they were like pretending it was the draft from like '98. I can't even think.
That's a good idea.
Too, but it was really funny. I'm surprised they didn't like show his actual outfit of it because it was pretty funny.
That was a fun one. And last but not least, we gotta show this. This girl right here was catching the heat, boy, because this man was throwing these things and they sound like bullets every time she caught them. But she did not flinch. She actually smiled after some of these catches. Look at these catches right here. Look at this. Look at her. Look. This thing come up. We don't this thing come up. Look at these things. This man throwing, boom, and she looked nothing. Absolutely nothing. Barely caught it because it was going a little bit. It was a bad throw. It wasn't her fault. But she's catching those things like it was nothing. Oh, look at all that.
Very impressive.
I mean, when you hear like the ball hit.
Have to keep track of them. No negativity at the end, okay? So we're going to bring back the name. Yeah, we're going to bring back the
shame.
positive name to post up, all right? But it's all yours now, Jackie, with WTF
All
moments.
right. All right, let's get into these WTF moments. Now, if you guys remember, it wasn't in the too far distant past when Antonio Brown was handing his baby mama a pack of gummy man parts. But apparently those days are over because now they're expecting their fourth child. It will be her sixth. She has two by another relationship, and they are expecting a fourth child. So on top of that, Antonio Brown has apparently proposed. So I don't know if I would even consider a proposal from a man who called me all the things that he called me, threw a bag of gummy dicks at me, and called the police on me because I was trying to take his kids to school. I don't know if I would even be in a situation where I'm pregnant again and then entertaining a proposal. So I'm just going to have to ask that of the ladies. I'm going to start with the disgusting on your face, Britt, is like, nah, this ain't even going to happen for you. Would you even entertain this?
No, like, oh my gosh, like, I just don't understand, like, so, like, a guy that I've never dated a guy that's called me, like, the B word, and then I tell my friends, and they're like, what's, like, he just said it one time, or, like, and I'm just like, no, how could you even, like, take it, you know, and, like, now it's so crazy, because, like, you hear all these, like, drama stories, or even, like, I mean, I love them as a couple now, but like D Wade had a baby on Gabrielle Union. Yeah. You know, all this stuff happens, and then people take these guys back, and I'm just like, what is like? Do they have like the magic stick that you just gotta be with this
gummy
dude?
Stick.
Like I'm just
they got the magic gummy
so
sticks.
confused. Like, and then everybody's like, oh, like she's so lucky. No, she is not. Like that is the struggle bus all the way, and I do not want to jump on that bus at all. I would rather be single. Everyone's always like, why are you still single? I'm like, because I ain't talking to nobody like Antonio Brown.
I feel the exact same way. When I watched that video of him yelling at her with their kids right there, that would have been like no looking back after that. That's humiliating. Yeah. So inappropriate in front of the kids. Plus, he is so all over the place. I would be afraid if I was her that one day he would decide that I'm the worst person again. So I am shocked that she said yes. But there was a comment in here from a guy named Greg that said the money told her to say yes. And I think that
and unfortunately, I think that's true because, you know, I'm always, if you guys follow me on social media, I'm always pulling for Antonio Brown. I've always said I want him to get help. I think he's an amazing talent. But that's me sitting over here. If Antonio Brown came up to me right now and was like, do you want to go to dinner? Hell no, I'm not going to dinner with you. I'll take you to a therapist, but I'm not saying, no, we're not going to dinner. And it's different for her because she has kids. Now she's putting her kids in that situation. And she's got little boys, and the little boys are going to, you know, how the dad treats the mom is their representation. Yes. And now you have these little boys growing up thinking it's okay to treat a woman like this. Yeah. I think it's just bad parenting on her part to be cool with her kids being in that situation.
Wouldn't even say it's the money because I know a lot of girls that talk to a lot of toxic broke dudes. Like I have one friend in particular, like she literally goes to jail to go visit this guy all the time, still to this day. So I'm just like, some people just like toxic, you know, environments. And honestly, like she probably came from possibly a father that maybe wasn't the best to her mom, so she doesn't know how she's supposed to be treated as a woman. It's literally a continual cycle, and it's unfortunate because we all actually do have the opportunity to break that cycle by who we choose to like have kids with or what we choose to take from another person, but 9 times out of 10 people don't. They just keep continuing on these horrible cycles. It's so sad.
Yeah, well, she's gonna have to continue for a long time because the new baby will be here in I think 6 months or so.
So at least 18 more years.
Right. So she's stuck. So maybe in her head she's like, this is just how it's gonna be. I might as well stay with him, you know. But I don't know. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. But now we got to get on to, because, you know, right now we'd be in the middle of the playoffs. We are in the middle of no man's land right now, which is sad and tragic. I kind of proposed an idea last week. Britt has proposed an idea of how the NBA could restart. They didn't listen to us, so now we got Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith has an idea that I really can't wait to hear what you guys think about this idea, because he went to Twitter and he said, I would love to see an NBA tournament. All teams make the playoffs this year. Single game elimination until the Final Four. Could be done in 3 weeks of quarantine in Vegas. Drastic times equals drastic measures. Chris, what do you think of this idea? Before I tell even your face just lets me know you have a thought.
So when the Knicks lose, does that affect?
See,
Does that help us out with our draft stock, or like how does this work out for our draft?
Oh, for
chances?
draft.
You're
Because
all about. That's a good
Knicks,
point.
Knicks ain't getting out of the first round. Look, I love my team to death, but as long as this is not the place for it. But I don't know. I don't like it. I don't want it. I'm not there. I'm not ready for that yet. I know people have been talking about these tournaments, these 16-man tournaments instead of the playoffs and stuff like that. No, I don't like it.
And I disagree wholeheartedly. Mostly, I feel like what this Twitter fan said. He said, "Yeah, right. Give the worst team in the league this season, the Warriors, a shot at the title because Steph catches fire in the only game of the series and eliminates the Bucks." And I totally agree with that. I feel like you'll end up with with Denver, in the finals, or even with the Bulls in the finals, because teams aren't.
Stop. All right, too far.
I'm just saying, it's possible. When you really break down and you think about all the TikToks we've seen, all the food we've seen, all the people sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing, it's literally any man's game. So when I say any man, I literally mean it could be, the Bulls. More than likely it would be Steph Curry and them doing what they do.
Yeah, that one, that is a good argument. The Bulls line, look, man, any man, but they still got no man on the Bulls. That's the problem.
I kind of like this idea though, a little bit. Like if it came down to it, and that's what we have to do, because it could happen like how March Madness does, because March Madness starts with 68 for the first four, but technically the actual tournament is 64 teams. So and they get that done in a month, So I could see this possibly, and they only have games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I think that this could be if it gets down to it and you don't want to interrupt next season and how the next season schedule would plan out. If this is what I got to take, I'll take it, and then maybe it's everybody playing as hard as they can for whatever that time that they're playing that one game. And it is more of it's going to be sad, because then you're going to see big teams get dropped off. But, you should have came with your game that game. If you want to be the best, you got to play the best 24/7. So I would watch it. I think.
I didn't say I would.
I would watch
I didn't
it.
say that.
One of the better options we've heard.
Devin,
I think that
option, but
Yeah, I actually don't think it's that bad of an idea. I mean, I do agree with you guys that it could kind of set the scale off a little bit, get the balance off a little bit if a bad team like the Warriors does really, really well. But if this is the only way that we're going to be getting any sort of playoffs, any sort of basketball back, I am 100% for it. And in fact, it could actually be kind of interesting, could be a unique experience, and maybe that underdog will do really well, in which case, that'd be a shock. It'd be like a huge moment.
Let me see the brackets.
Yeah.
Somebody show me the brackets. Let me see the brackets.
And
I wonder if it would be West would kind of be here and East, and then you would still meet the Western and Eastern Conference winner at the final game,
Definitely. And I wouldn't be opposed to it, because the West is so close as far as people. True. But so I don't mind it in that aspect, but the East, top 8. Nobody else can play from the East. That's just silliness. But
do you really think one of those bottom feeder teams in the East is going to be the Bucks or something like that, or Miami Heat or something? They're not going to beat those teams.
I don't know.
But the other thing too is then there's always, if it didn't end up being one of the teams we expected to take the title, and you just were this one-off team that got lucky, now there's always going to be an asterisk by that championship award that you win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's why I'm not against the tournament idea, just not at this moment when we're supposed to be going into a championship. I've been with the whole tournament in the middle of the season idea. I like that, but as of right now, when this is for the championship, and I don't like it.
Well, maybe you just do it until it gets to a point where it's a quarterfinal or Western and Eastern Conference final, and then you start playing more games, just because then it gets rid of the fact that we have to go back into regular season. This cancels out going back into regular season, which obviously we've been talking about. The Western Conference, there's some 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds that are just a couple games back, so then it gets rid of that to where everybody gets a chance to go to the playoffs. But then once you get to the quarterfinals, make it to that point, then we maybe go to 5-game series or 3-game series or whatever the case is.
Well, I'll entertain just about anything right now. So
That's, I can't fight that. You're right. If someone said it's this and no basketball, I'm like, all right. So what time we
going
watching?
with this?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But that's all I got. So now it's that time. Let's get to Brit's takes.
What's up, everybody? It is time for Brit's Takes. We are talking NFL because, as we all know, the NFL draft is going to kick off this Thursday, where we have the first round, and then the other rounds will go between Friday and Saturday. So I had like a question going into this because everybody's kind of been talking about Tua and like how he's going to be taken in the draft. Like, where's he going to go? What's going to happen with him? And the main reason why is because no team got to have their personal doctor come in and actually give him a physical before this, which dates kind of back to when I was saying before, like I feel slightly uncomfortable with like teams making trades or doing whatever because they aren't actually physically letting the players sign or do whatever because they haven't been able to get the okay from their physician that they have for their team. So he actually did get a physical done by an unaffiliated doctor. The doctor's name is Thomas Bird, and he actually is one of the most renowned, best hip doctors in the whole entire world. So if he's giving the okay, I think that that's an okay. But it then brings to the question, like, do teams want to take a chance on that? Or is his stock going to drop because of it? Because their personal doctor didn't get to, like, test him on? And should players even care where they get drafted at? Currently, the top 5 draft picks, and this is based off numbers from the last 2 years' drafts, if you are drafted in the top 5, you are averaged to get about $32 million contract. If you're picked 6 through 10, it drops about $10 million, and the average is about $22 million for those picks. And then if you drop to the very last pick of the first round, number 32, which was Lamar Jackson's pick a couple years ago, it's $10 million contract. So it's from literally the top 5 all the way to the 10, or number 32, it's about a $20 million plus drop that players would get, which is why they feel like it's so important to get drafted so early on in the draft and why it matters so much to them. But really, I don't think it matters much in their overall career. The top 5 draft picks currently, unless obviously any trades or whatever happened before then, Cincinnati has one. Currently, Andy Dalton is literally had his worst season that he's had in his career last season. So obviously, everybody knows the Bengals are going to be looking for a quarterback. It's probably going to be Joe, but who knows? Washington, who's number 2 pick, won't draft a quarterback. They have Ron Rivera there now. I don't think they're looking. They still have Dwayne Haskins that they're trying to work through, and I think Ron Rivera is going to be helpful with that. Detroit has no need for a quarterback. Matt Stafford had a great season last year, one of his best that he's had in his career. Even though he is 32, I think he still has a lot of basketball or football to be played. Giants are not going to draft a quarterback there at 4, and then Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are actually in a rebuilding period. They do actually have 3 backs right now. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then we all know Josh Rosen's there too. So even though they have 3 quarterbacks right now, I think they could be looking to draft a quarterback because none of those guys even really fit in that position. And they've been on this rebuilding train the last couple years, so I think they're for sure going to draft a quarterback. And then obviously the Chargers, who will come in at 6. Depending on them, Chargers, Patriots, and the Jags all need quarterbacks too. Who knows if they're going to go for a new quarterback, or we all know Cam Newton's still on the chopping block. He could still get picked up. We all know Jameis Winston's still out there too. So there are a handful of teams that need quarterbacks, but how far, if any, will his stock drop? I personally think that he shouldn't be too worried about it if it does drop. Let's look at some of the top quarterbacks that we have in the league right now that were not drafted in the first round. Like Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Tony Romo, like you want to say he's great or not, but he made a lot of freaking money when he played football. And that's really what matters. He wasn't even drafted in the league. Dak Prescott was a 4th-rounder, and then Russell Wilson was a 3rd-rounder, and he's currently the highest-paid quarterback in the league. So I think that, like, players need to kind of, like, step away from this, like, oh, I have to be picked in the top of whatever the draft because it's going to put a lot of money in my pockets at this time. Really, you need to worry about getting selected by the correct team because if we look at situations of other quarterbacks and what's happened and all the pressure put on guys like Jamarcus Russell or whatever the case is, they literally are put into a situation where they automatically have to be this top guy. I know we were talking about it last week about why are we putting rookies and making rookies automatically when they're put into the league, they're having to have all this pressure and just be this amazing player, and they're not given the time to develop like they used to have before. Let's not forget Aaron Rodgers was a backup quarterback for a while. Tom Brady was a backup quarterback for a while before he stepped in and actually played and had the responsibility on his shoulders. So Tua getting dropped till later in the draft, I think is going to possibly be a good thing for him because he's not going to have the pressure on him. But I want to ask you guys a question. Should players be worried when they are taken late in the draft? Like, should they have that as a sign as what they're going to be making in the league or how well they're going to do in the league? Or do you think it's a good sign that they're pushed a little bit later and they don't have that pressure to produce right away? I'll start with you, Jackie.
That's a good question. I think that in a situation like Tua, I think being taken later in the draft is a good thing because I think everyone's going to be looking at you and wondering off the bat if you're injury prone. And so I think having an opportunity to not have to lead a team, to be able to sit behind somebody for at least a year minimum and continue to develop and make sure you're 1,000% before you take on that responsibility is a beautiful thing. So I think in that specific situation, or if you're in a situation where you're good, but maybe you're coming out of college a little early and you need a little bit of time to be molded, I think that falling lower in the draft is great. I think if you're a guy like Burrow and all of a sudden for some reason if they dropped lower in the draft, then you need to be concerned because all the hype is around you. Everyone is expecting you to go high in the draft. And like it or not, everyone's expecting you to take on that pressure and excel under that pressure. So if you are not drafted high, it's because they don't think you can handle the pressure. If they don't think you can handle the pressure now, unfortunately, that stigmatism is going to live with you forever. So I think it just really kind of depends on where you are as a draftee. I don't think going high is great for everyone. We've seen people go, we could probably name off 5 people that went first round and then what? You know what I mean?
Terrible.
Had a very short-lived
Johnny
career.
Manziel, like tons of Heisman. Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that it really just kind of depends on just where you're at as a draftee. And I think that in this situation for Tua specifically, it would be a good thing for him to go later in the draft.
Devin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously athletes do want to be picked at the top of the draft. As you guys were saying, having that not having such pressure could actually do better. And I think that you don't have to fill this high expectation right off the bat. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be this huge disappointment to an athlete because they still have so much time to be able to prove themselves and become one of the top players in the league.
Chris, do you think this idea matters based on the position? Like, would you say, like, for like a running back or corner, they can actually come into the lineup right away versus at quarterback, maybe like Lamar Jackson being picked 32 overall and having to have like a year and a half where he was under Joe Flacco really helped him, or less than a year under Joe Flacco really helped him become the player he was this past season.
Yeah, I think position is, especially at quarterback, because we've seen so many situations where a lot of these guys that get drafted at any of those other, athletic positions later on end up being like the number 2, number
right.
1 option for a lot of these teams in their same rookie season. So I think for the quarterback, because you're right, and I feel like with any sports, like it's so nice because you get the the extra money and all that stuff, and you're drafted in the lottery or earlier on. But the situation is probably always the worst for that player because they're going to a Dolphins or they're going to the worst team.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So like so I feel like in the situation of Tua, who was in a lot of mocks, people are looking at like the Dolphins and stuff, and that'd be great. But somebody with like an injury history, whether he is checking all the boxes or whatever. That's just to me. I feel like it's such a setup for a disaster for him. Great, he'll get his money, but who knows if he'll ever be the football player that he could have been because he's probably gonna go to the Miami and get chewed up. But as far as like if it's better to go later, I feel like it's just better to go where you fit. I feel like anybody can make the situation. Like Joe Burrow, we weren't talking about this, but about him being the number 1 overall pick at the beginning of this last NCAA season. He was going to be one of the top quarterbacks for sure, but not number 1. Everyone was thinking Tua. So I just feel like, situations it just depends on the player, really, and depends on the team. But I for the sake of a lot of players, I think I would prefer a lot of the talented players to go a little bit later, so they can go behind players that have some experience. Like for me as a Saints fan, I want them to get a guy like Jalen Hurts in like the second or third round,
because I
feel like
Hurts.
me too. I love him too, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback. And I think
ain't he though? But that's
But I feel like something like that where you have Drew Brees for sure at least 2 more years. He goes and he sits there behind Drew Brees. Who knows if he turns out to be the guy that a lot of us expect him to be? Like he could be a good quarterback at the next level. So, a lot of those guys I feel like can get better situations than probably like the Tuas or maybe even Joe to go to a team like the Bengals that does not have a great protection. Like he can be as great as he's going to be. It's just still the Bengals. So that's a great question. That's a great question, but it's really
see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're gonna have to see,
All right, you guys. Well, we are at 12 o'clock over here in Pacific Standard Time, so that's the end of the show. But we're going to be back.
Can I yell at Sean in our chat real quick? He thinks he's trying to get at, because we're talking about getting drafted high and not supposed to be. He trying to get at me talking about Lonzo Ball not supposed to not get picked at number 2. Sean, I see you. He even said it, messing with CK. No, I see you. You're hilarious. You're such a funny guy, Sean. So I had he over there trying to push buttons, and he got the buttons.
The trolls know if they get you at that right button, they get a shout out.
They're like, we're going to even slow down the show.
I had to stop the whole thing for you, Sean.
Sorry, we need a Prince, guys. I got my Prince.
That's so true.
Jackie got her Prince hair, and Devin got her purple on. Chris, what you got?
Yeah,
my
Chris.
It's over there. I don't have it on.
I'm literally rocking an afro, and you came empty-handed?
I did. I'm
Jackie,
so sorry.
You have been blurry for me this whole show, and I've been trying to tell what hairstyle you had. Now I know.
She got the Prince Pro going on. All right. This is a good shout.
I thought so, but I honestly, you guys are all so blurry, so I can hardly see anything. Anyway.
That is hilarious. You did this whole show like that?
Yeah, I can't see anything.
You're like, I start motion. Someone's nodding their head. Whoever that is.
Exactly. So, but your hair looks great from what I can tell. Anyway, you guys.
Blurry Crow is right.
It's cute. Okay, we're done with the show. Tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe, tap the bell, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.